लाइट चली गई थी भाई, फोन की फ्लैश बंद थी, फोन की फ्लैश चालू कर दी है। A door opened and closed in the passage behind her. A musty smell emerged. I regret I cannot do anything for you. I come here especially for on the train. I wanted to talk to you for a moment. This is not convenient for me now, said the woman. I can see you another time. She nodded and continuously closed the door as though no one inside the house should be disturbed. I stood where I was on the step, the curtain in front of the bay window moved. Someone stared at me and would then have asked that I wanted for nothing. The woman would have said it was nothing. I looked at the name plate again. Darling, it said in black letters on white enamel, and on the jump a bit higher the number is 46. As I walked slowly back to the station, I thought about my mother, who had given me the address years ago. It had been in the first half of the war. I was home for a few days, and it struck me immediately that something or other about the rooms had changed. I missed various things. My mother was surprised I should have noticed so quickly. Then she told me about Mr. Darling. I had never hear, heard of her, but apparently she was an old acquaintance of my mother, whom she hadn't seen for years. He had suddenly turned up and renewed their contact. Since then, she had come regularly. Every time she leaves here, she takes something home with her, said my mother. She took all the table silver on one go, and then the antique plates that hung there. She had trouble lugging those large vases, and I am worried she got a crick in her back from the crockery. My mother shook her head pityingly. I would never have dared ask her. She suggested it to me herself. She even insisted she wanted to save all my nice things if we have even insisted she wanted to save my all nice thing if we have to live here. We shall lose everything, she says. Have you agreed with her that she should keep everything? I asked. As if that necessary, my mother cried. I would simply be an insult to talk like that. And think about the risk she's running each time she goes out of her door with a full suitcase or bag. My mother seemed to notice that I was not entirely convinced. She looked at me re- reprovingly, and after that we spoke no more about it. Meanwhile, I had arrived at the station without having paid much attention to things on the way. I was walking in familiar places again for the first time since the war, but I did not want to go further than was necessary. I didn't want to upset my life with the sight of streets and houses full of memories from a precious time. In the train back, I saw Mr. Darling in the front of me again as I had the first time I met her. It was the morning after the day my mother had told me about her. I had got up late and coming downstairs, I saw my mother about to see someone out. A woman with a broad back. There is my daughter, said my mother. She beckoned me to coat rack. She wore a brown coat and shapeless hat, Does the live far away? I asked, seeing the difficulty she had going out the house with the heavy case in Marconi Street, said my mother, number 46. Remember that? I had remembered it, but I had waited a long time to go there. Initially, after the liberation, I was absolutely not interested in all that stored stuff, and naturally, I was also rather afraid of it connection that no longer existed, which were hidden away in cupboards and boxes and watching in vain until they were put back in their place again, which had endured all those years because they were things. But gradually everything became more normal again. Bread was getting to be a lighter color. There was a bed you could sleep in, threatened a room with a view you were more used to glancing at each day. And one day I noticed I was curious about all the possessions that must still be at that address. I wanted to see them, touch, remember. After my first visit in vain to Mr. Dorling's house, I decided to try a second time. Now a girl about 15 opened the door to me. I asked her if her mother was at home. No, she said, my mother's doing an errand. No matter, I said, I'll wait for her. I followed the girl along the passage, an old-fashioned iron Hanukkah, Hanukkah का मतलब भाई feast of lights candle holder hung next to a mirror. We never used it because it was much more cumbersome than a single candlestick. Won't you sit down? I asked the girl. She held open the door of the living room and I went inside the past her. I stood horrified. I was in a room I know and did not know I found myself in the midst of things I did want to see again, but which oppressed me in the strange atmosphere, or of because of the tasteless way everything was arranged, because of the ugly furniture, of the muggy smell that hung there. I don't know, but I scarcely dared to look around me. The girl moved a chair. I sat down and stared at the woolen tablecloth. I rubbed it. My fingers grew warm from rubbing. I followed the lines of the pattern. Somewhere on the edge there should be a bun made. Tea for her. Will you have a cup? Thank you. I looked up. The girl put cups ready on the tea table. She had a broad back. She just like her mother. She poured tea from a white pot. At all it had was a good good bordered on the lid. I remembered. She opened a box and took some spoons out. That's a nice box. I heard my own voice. It was a strange voice, as though each sound was different in this room. Oh, you know about them. She had turned around and brought me my tea. She laughed. My mother say it is antique. We both get lost more. She pointed around the room. See for yourself. I had no need to follow her hand. I know which things she meant. It just looked at the the still life over the tea table. As a child, I had always fancied the apple on the pewter plate. We used it for everything. She said once we even ate of the plates hanging there on the wall. I wanted to so much, but it wasn't anything special. I had found the bun mark on the tablecloth. The girl looked questioningly at me. Yes, I said, you get so used touching all these lovely things in the house. You hardly look at them anymore. You only notice when something is missing, because it has to be repaired or because you have lent it. For example, again I hear the unnatural sound of my voice and I went on. I remember my mother when she asked me if I would help her polish the silver. It was a very long time ago and I was probably bored that day, or perhaps I had to stay at home because I was ill. As she had never asked me before, I asked her which silver she meant, and she replied, surprised, that it was the spoons, forks, and knives of course. And that was the strange thing. I didn't know the cutlery we ate of every day was silver. The girl laughed again. I bet you don't know it is either. I looked intently at her. What we eat with? She asked. Well, do you know? She hesitated. She walked to the sideboard and wanted to open her drawer. I look, it is in here. I jumped up. I was forgetting the time. I must catch my train. She had her hand on the drawer. Don't you want to wait for my mother? No, I must go. I walked to the door. The girl pulled the drawer opened. I can't find my own way. As I walk down the passage, I hear the jingling of spoons and forks. At the corner of the road, I looked up at the name plate, Marconi Street. It said it. I had been at number 46. The address was correct, but no, I didn't want to remember it anymore. I wouldn't go back there because the objects that are linked in our memory with the familiar life of former times instantly lose their value when severed from them. You see them again in strange surroundings. And what should I have done with them in a small rented room where the shreds of black out paper still hung down the windows, and no more that a handful cutlery fitted in the narrow table drawer. I resolved to forget the address of all the things I had to forget. That would be the easiest. लो भाई इसी के साथ होगा चैप्टर खत्म। आप तब ऐसे क्वेश्चन बताओ, इनके आंसर कमेंट में लिखिए। पहला क्वेश्चन, हैव यू कम बैक, said the woman. I thought that no one had come back. Does the statement give some clue about the story? If yes, what is it? ये पहला क्वेश्चन था। The story is divided into pre-war and post-war times. What hardships do you think the girl underwent during these times? Why did the narrator of the story want to forget the address? चौथा क्वेश्चन, द एड्रेस इज अ स्टोरी ऑफ ह्यूमन प्रिडिकमेंट दैट फॉलोस वार कमेंट। ये भाई होगा चैप्टर खत्म। तो भाई इसी के साथ इस वीडियो में इतना ही था। मिलते हैं अगली वीडियो में। धन्यवाद देखने के लिए वीडियो। तो दोस्तों, स्वागत आपका एक और नई वीडियो के साथ। तो भाई मेरा नाम है प्रिंस। तो भाई आज हम वीडियो बनाने जा रहे हैं इस बुक के ऊपर, जो भाई इसका सेकंड चैप्टर है, उसके ऊपर वीडियो बना रहे हैं अभी। तो भाई यह सप्लीमेंट्री रीडर इन इंग्लिश फॉर क्लास 11th कोर कोर्स की बुक है यार, क्लास 11th की। नाम है भाई इसका स्नैपशॉट। मात्र 45 रुपये की बुक है भाई। इसका सेकंड चैप्टर बताओ कौन सा है। इसका है भाई सेकंड चैप्टर द एड्रेस। वो लिखा है मार्गा मिल्को ने। चलो भाई पढ़ते हैं सेकंड चैप्टर इसका द एड्रेस। यह स्टोरी का भाई इसका थोड़ा ब्रीफ देंगे, 4-5 लाइन का है। This short story is a poignant account of a daughter who goes in search of her mother belonging after the war in Holland. When she finds them, the objects evoke memories of her earlier life. However, she decided to leave them all behind and resolves to move on. इसका मतलब भाई यह स्टोरी है पियोगेंट अकाउंट ऑफ डॉटर। एक उसकी छोरी होगी भाई, कोई किसी बीमारी से जूझ रही होगी वह। Who goes in search of her mother belonging after the war। वार के पहले की बात है, वो अपने मान ढूंढ गई इन हॉलैंड में। When she finds them, the objects evoke memories of her earlier life। जी उसने भाई अब अपनी माँ तो ही मेमोरी आई उसने याद अपनी पहले वाली लाइफ की। However, she decided to leave them all behind and resolved to move on। उन्हें डिसाइड कराया कि इन सारी चीज़ें छोड़ गए, रिसोल्व करके आगे बढ़ने की। ये भाई चैप्टर पढ़ने की बारी आ गई। चैप्टर तो भाई खाली इंग्लिश में पढ़ कर बता देंगे, जो भाई आप हिंदी बताने लगे तो बड़ी बड़ी वीडियो पहुंचेगी। डू यू स्टिल नो मी आई आस्क्ड। द वुमन लुक्ड एट मी सर्चिंगली। शी सेड ओपन द डोर ऑफ अ चिंक। I came closer and stood on the step. No, I don't know you. I am Miss S.'s daughter. She held her hand on the door as though she wanted to prevent it opening any further. Her face gave absolutely no sign of recognition. She kept staring at me in silence. Perhaps I was mistaken. I thought perhaps it isn't her. I had seen her only once fittingly, and that was years ago. It was most probable that I had rung the wrong bell. The woman let go of the door and stepped to the side. She was wearing my mother's green knitted cardigan. The wooden buttons were rather pale from washing. She saw that I was looking at the cardigan and half hid herself again behind the door. But I know that now that I was right. Well, you know my mother, I asked. Have you come back? Said the woman. I thought that no one had come back, only me। इसमें बताया भाई जो भी भाई जब भी टूंदी टूंदी अपनी माना गई, इसने एक पूछा लेडी था कि भाई मैं उसकी छोरी हूँ। फिर उसने बताया, उसने थोड़ी देर बाद एक दरवाज़ा खटखटाया। थॉट सी वांटेड टू रिकॉग्नाइजेशन। उन्हें भाई वहाँ चली पूछ पाछ कैसे करूँगी। फिर भाई और घनी देर लग साइलेंस रही, स्टेरिंग साइलेंस, मतलब कुछ नहीं आया। यार मुझे कभी मैंने गलत कर लियो। फिर भाई थोड़ी देर मैं इन्हें सोचा वो रॉन्ग बेल बजा दी मैंने। फिर थोड़ी सी देर बाद एक वो आई लेडी, और वह गेट के साइड में खड़ी। और जो भाई छोरी ने देखा कि वह उसकी माँ का ग्रीन कनेक्टेड कार्डियन पहन रही थी, so wooden buttons थे rather, and half hid herself again behind the door। वो फिर भी उन्हें देख कौड़ी खड़ी रही। But I know now that I was right। उन्हें हाँ भाई उन्हें पहले गलतफहमी हुई थी, कभी मैं गलत आ गई। फिर उन्हें अजी देखो ना पक्का, या उसने सोचा कि या मेरी माँ ना जाना है। आई आस्क्ड, हैव यू कम बैक? said the woman. I thought that no। भाई 1 मिनट रुको, लाइट बच गया। अब तो इस फोन की लाइट बढ़ है।